Good afternoon once again. Chris Owens here from Cummins Aviation. Got another question. This one is PMA parts. Had a situation where gentleman had an issue about if he can use a PMA part and try to explain that process and evaluation. So PMA part means part manufacturer approval. And what this allows a aircraft manufacturer to follow a standard to produce a part that can be installed on aircraft. Some of the uses that a PMA part might be used for an aircraft manufacturer for parts that he's going to eventually put in the aircraft in the IPC, or an engineering group or another party that might have an alternative part to be installed on the aircraft, and that PMA part has went through the approval process to be installed in the aircraft, but might not be in the IPC for that aircraft that you want to install it in. So sometimes PMA parts are a great alternative in general aviation. They help keep the cost down in certain aspects, because a lot of times there's a premium on the aircraft manufacturer part, and the PMA part just as good or better than the aircraft manufacturer part, but they might just be marketed better, or various different intangibles that may influence the decision to purchase the OEM part. Okay. My opinion on PMA part, I think they're great. Like I said before, there's a misconception sometimes about PMA parts. They are sometimes, when it comes to the aftermarket aspect of it, better than any of the OEM parts, or the parts that are made by the original aircraft manufacturer, for substitutes. And it's a great situation. Now, a couple of situations that you got to be aware of PMA parts when you're a director of maintenance or you're running a maintenance shop is where your aircraft is at in life, and what's going on with your aircraft, and what have you got approved and what you don't have approved. So for instance, if you have warranties on your aircraft and you try to install a PMA part, you got to figure out and find out if that PMA part is going to affect any warranties that you may have on the aircraft. And a good majority of the time it probably does. So if you got warranties or anything like that, you might not necessarily want to go the PMA part route until your warranties wear out or anything like that. Another aspect that you have to worry about, or you have to deal with, is when you have a PMA part and it might come with a maintenance manual supplement or ICA that you're going to have to incorporate in your maintenance program. It also may require some different tooling to install. So you have to be aware of that, and you have to make sure that if you install that PMA part, that you have a process to integrate the installation of that part per that CMM or that maintenance manual supplement, and or additional how to integrate those instructions for continued airworthiness. Because once again, when I talk about instruction of continued airworthiness and how they relate to aircraft maintenance, they're sometimes outside of the boundaries of what's currently in the aircraft maintenance manual. This is a supplemented part. So they might have shorter intervals, they might have longer intervals. It just depends. You have to read and find out and make sure that there's nothing that is that you don't have to make any adjustments, or what adjustments to make for that replacement part. PMA parts are another issue you got to realize, and I'm going to tread lightly on this, but not really. But you want to be aware of that. I've seen certain situations where there's insurance policies that are for the aircraft, and they only recommend that you perform and use parts that's recommended by the aircraft manufacturer. Okay, so if you know, there's a PMA part installed, that is also another resource that you might want to look into and make sure that it doesn't affect the customer or the tier aircraft maintenance that you're performing, that there might be some other recourse that prevents you from installing that PMA part. The next thing you want to do is you want to review all your approved documentation by the FAA. There may be something, a stipulement that you didn't realize that's in there that might not allow you to install a PMA part. Now, if there's anything like that, you need to go ahead and get that amended if possible, or find out the circumstance and see if you could educate them, because there really shouldn't be any true restriction outside of a warranty part or a warranty situation that you shouldn't be able to use a PMA part. You know, you can say whatever you want about the FAA or whatever, but the Mayo, I think it's the Mayo or Mayo, does an excellent job on how they manage and how they approve parts that get a FAA PMA stamp on it. For the manufacturer, it's really no joke. They have to go through a lot of hurdles. They have to go through a lot of checks and balances and engineering to make sure that these parts are airworthy. So PMA parts are just, I mean, the same process that or some of the same manufacturers that the OEM use are making those same parts PMA also. So PMA parts are something that is a part of aviation, especially in general aviation, and should be used as an asset to help keep aircraft maintenance affordable for people that want to either casually fly, and also figure out a way to integrate it to whatever tier of air carrier or anything like that, if possible, to install on your aircraft and ensure that it doesn't interfere with anything. Oh, last and not least, you definitely got to check your modifications. You want to make sure that any equipment that you have installed does not interfere with the operation of that PMA part you're installing. So you want to make sure that any of your modification is not going to affect your PMA part that's installed. And usually you can find that out by looking at the effectivity of the replacement part number and the PMA part number, and making sure that those effectivities work together and the part numbers are matching. You don't have anything out of bounds or anything like that. But once again, PMA parts, especially as an alternative, is a great resource for anybody that's flying an aircraft, especially general aviation. If there's a part that fits your situation, you know, the FAA has a great website that you can look up. I probably should have looked it up myself and gave it to you over here, but you can just go, I think, a PMA and FAA on a Google search, and I think you'll find the links that you need to determine whether this PMA part is good for you. So I hope this video was, you know, informal and covered everything. And if you need to know anything else, you want to know some more information, please contact us on Facebook at Cumulus Aviation. You can contact us also at info@cumulusaviation.com, and also in the comment section on YouTube. And I think I'm supposed to say subscribe. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel, coming with more great content, answer your questions as best as I can, and just having fun.